Travel Documentaries, London, then and now. London is the capital city and the largest city in both England and the UK. Standing on the Thames River in the southeast of England, London has been a major settlement for 2 millennia. The history of London extends over 2,000 years. In that time, it has become one of the world's most significant financial and cultural capital cities. Due to a long history of the city, I will only be covering some more recent events. Here is a brief rundown of the history of London. The Tudor London period saw London rapidly rising in importance among Europe's commercial centers. During this period, monopoly trading companies such as the Muscovy Company and the British East India Company were established in London by the Royal Charter. The late 16th and early 17th century saw the great flourishing of drama in London, whose preeminent figure was William Shakespeare. The general meeting place of Londoners in the daytime was the nave of the old St. Paul's Cathedral. Merchants conducted business in the aisles and used the front as a counter where customers could make their payments. The unemployed would also look for work here. The unsanitary and overcrowded city of London has suffered from numerous outbreaks of the plague many times over the centuries. The last major outbreak is remembered as the Great Plague, which occurred in 1665 and 1666. It killed around 60,000 people, which is 1/5 of the population. Following the Great Plague, London was hit with another devastating disaster. On September 2nd, 1666, the Great Fire of London broke out at 1 o'clock in the morning at a bakery in Pudding Lane in the southern part of the city. The fire destroyed about 60% of the city, including the old St. Paul's Cathedral, 87 parish churches, 44 livery company halls, and the Royal Exchange. The 18th century was a period of rapid growth for London, reflecting an increase of national population, the early stirrings of the Industrial Revolution, and London's role as the center of the evolving British Empire. In 1707, an Act of the Union was passed merging Scotland to the English Parliaments, thus establishing the Kingdom of Great Britain. A year later, in 1708, construction of the new St. Paul's Cathedral was completed by Christopher Wren on his birthday. Up till 1750, the London Bridge was the only bridge crossing over the Thames. But in that year, the Westminster Bridge was opened, and for the first time in history, the London Bridge in a sense had a rival. During the 19th century, London was transformed into the largest city in the world and the capital of the British Empire. Its population expanded from 1 million in 1800 to 6.7 million a century later. 19th century London was transformed by the coming of railways. The first railway was built in 1836. It was a line from London Bridge to Greenwich. This was soon followed by the opening of the Great Rail Termini, which eventually linked London to every corner of Great Britain. In 1863, the first lines of the London Underground were constructed. The network has expanded to 11 lines, and in 2017-2018 carried 1.3 billion passengers, making it the world's 11th busiest metro system. Many famous buildings and landmarks in London were constructed during the 19th century, including Trafalgar Square, Big Ben and the House of Parliament, the Royal Albert Hall, the Victoria and Albert Museum, and Tower Bridge. My favorite part about visiting London is visiting the historic sites in the city. There are so many historic sites in London. It is like walking through a time machine as you take a journey back into the city's past. Getting around London is really easy, as London has one of the largest urban transport networks in the world, with integrated bus, river, and road systems spanning the city's 32 boroughs. Here is a brief rundown of some places to visit in London. Buckingham Palace is the London residence and administrative headquarters of the monarch of the UK. The palace has 775 rooms and the largest private garden in London. Trafalgar Square is a public square in London. The square is renowned for its iconic square-lit LED fountains, artworks, and lion statues. The 169-foot Nelson's Column at its center is guarded by 4 lion statues. A number of commemorative statues and sculptures occupy the square, but the 4th plinth, which has been left empty since 1840, has been host to contemporary art since 1999. The London Eye is an observation wheel on the south bank of the River Thames in London. It is the most paid tourist attraction in the UK, with over 3.75 million visitors annually. The structure is Europe's tallest observation wheel. It is 135 meters tall with a diameter of 120 meters. St. Paul's Cathedral is an iconic cathedral in London. It sits on Ludgate Hill at the highest point of the city of London. The cathedral is one of the most famous and most recognizable sights of London, and its dome has dominated the skyline for over 300 years. The Royal Albert Hall is a concert hall in London. It is one of the UK's most treasured and most distinctive buildings. Ever since its opening by Queen Victoria in 1871, the world's leading artists from many performance genres have appeared on its stage. It is the venue for some of the most notable events in British culture, in particular the Proms concert held each summer since 1941. Victoria and Albert Museum is the world's world's largest museum of decorative art and design. Founded in 1852, the museum houses a permanent collection of over 2.27 million objects. Its collection spans over 5,000 years of art, from ancient times to present day, from cultures of Europe, North America, Asia, and North Africa. The Great Ben is the nickname for the Great Bell of the Clock at the north end of the Palace of Westminster in London. The tower is a British cultural icon recognized all over the world and is a UNESCO World Heritage Site as of 1987. Westminster Abbey is one of the most notable religious buildings in the UK, and every English and British coronation since 1066 has been held there. 16 royal weddings have been held at the Abbey since 1100, and more than 3,000 people of prominence have been buried here. Tower Bridge is a suspension bridge in London built between 1886 and 1894. It is an iconic symbol in London. Before the bridge's restoration in the 2010s, the bridge's color scheme dated from 1977, when it was painted red, white, and blue for Queen Elizabeth II's Silver Jubilee. The Tower of London is officially called Her Majesty's Royal Palace and the Fortress of the Tower of London, and is located on the north bank of the Thames River. The White Tower was built by William the Conqueror in 1078 and represented a symbol of oppression inflicted upon London by the new ruling elite. The castle was also used as a prison from 1100 to 1952. The best place to shop in London is Oxford Street. It is Europe's busiest shopping street with around 500,000 visitors a day. It is also one of the most popular destinations for tourists in London, with an estimated annual turnover of over £1 billion. As of 2012, it has approximately 300 shops. London has changed so much over its long history, but through it all, it has always been the center of change. In the next travel documentary, Paris, Then and Now.